Hello everyone and welcome to this evening's Nottingham College Higher Education Information event. I'm delighted that you've joined us. My name is Damien Fiddler and I'm the Head of Higher Education at Nottingham College. My colleagues who are part of the University Centre Higher Education team are also here tonight to inspire you to move towards a degree level or university level course, and I will introduce them during this evening's event in order that we can answer as many questions you have. And please remember that the question and answer icon is there for you to post questions in the live chat section, which we will come to towards the end. Let's put on the next slide, please, Jane. Of course, one of the reasons you're here is to consider university level study, and tonight's event will give you all the information you need and try and give you the answers if you're still not sure whether that's appropriate to you. But one of the things to remember is that we are quite a large provider of higher education in Nottingham city centre. We have about 500 higher education students, and of course we are located within the city with 3 main campuses that give you access to all the resources and facilities you need in a city that is actually increasingly becoming one of the top university study cities in the country and incredibly popular. So in tonight's event, we will talk to you about all the different courses that are applicable to you. And you probably know already by looking at the information I've been given about you, about some of your areas of interest, that we have a range of level 4, 5 and 6 courses at university level, including foundation degrees, higher national certificates and BA top-ups. It's worth mentioning too that the team you're meeting tonight is the basis of very dedicated and professional services to support our university level students, and they're all working with me at the moment, although lockdown has stopped that, in our dedicated university centre in the Adams building. So as well as that, we will also talk to you about some of the facilities we have, which are industry leading. They're very specialist and bespoke to the areas of interest and the courses that you want to study, including creative art, design and film and TV studios, some professional kitchens, and some facilities for certain courses in our brand new city centre hub that we will look at later. Next slide, please, Jane. To give you confidence in our provision, I think it's worth reminding you and advertising the fact clearly that we are an incredibly successful higher education provider. And if you look at that slide, you can see that almost all our students successfully pass their level to go on to a next level upwards in higher education, or they graduate with us. And further to that, an overwhelming majority, 94% of our students, do find employment within 15 months of study, and over half of these are in highly skilled occupations. The other thing to talk about is the nature of our provision means that we have, again, this last National Student Survey realised over 80% agreement as positive rating for our provision, which is quite high. But in particular, our teaching excellence, our feedback to students and academic support is rated much higher than national averages and much higher than universities. And I think that's something we excel at, and I know you're here to understand, and one of the reasons you might want to study with us. So it's worth thinking about that, our small group sizes and our interaction with teachers. Our teaching excellence supports you as a student and can ensure you can succeed with us, and you have a much more individualised and personal and dedicated support for your learning and assessment than you might have at larger universities with larger numbers. Next slide, please. Of course, we're all trying to keep safe. I hope you are out there, and I do offer my sympathies to you during lockdown. I know you're doing your best to ensure that those that are most dearest to you are also safe, and our campuses are entirely COVID compliant if and when we do return. But most importantly, I think for those of you coming back into education, into higher education, we do have dedicated safeguarding officers and a very strong wellbeing team to help you keep safe, but also to help you with the personal challenges you may face as through isolation and when you become a student. Next slide, please. It's worth mentioning straight away that we still have some places for our February start courses, and these are listed as higher national certificates. They're level 4 qualifications, which can be studied full-time 2 days a week or part-time 1 day a week over 2 years. And they are really mostly industry relevant professional qualifications because they are based on Pearson higher national courses in all those areas. So if you do want to start imminently, we can consider that. And it might be the case that we can also consider you infilling into some of our wider Nottingham Trent validator provision, if that's what's suitable for you. So please ask those questions and think about that. I don't think we'll be starting straight away in February the 1st, and we will probably be continuing these courses online for the foreseeable future, unfortunately because of lockdown, but we do still have places for those. One of the incentives there is that we are able, if you start in February with us, to guarantee you £1,000 personal bursary to help you with your continuation through study and to deal with some financial pressures that you may be already experiencing. Next slide, please. Of course, the mainstay of our provision is the Orthodox starts in September, and I think some of you or most of you would be interested in those. And these are degree level courses right here with us in those areas. In fact, all the courses we saw on the previous slide in higher national provision are available too, but these courses and areas we list here are in the main foundation degrees. They're level 4 degrees and level 5 degrees, and some of them are top-up degrees where you can stay with us for up to 3 years and complete a full level 6 BA degree if that's what you want to do. We can also allow you quite conveniently to move between courses. It might mean that you actually start on an HNC and move to a foundation degree, or you can leave after 1 or 2 years study with a qualification that will help you get a job or progress your career. Next slide, please, Jane. We do have a suite also of higher apprenticeships, and I think it's fair to say these are more dedicated in line with some employers we're in contact with, as you can see, mostly big employers in Nottingham, but in the areas of construction and leadership and management particularly. So if you are interested in those, it might be that we have to give you some further detail based on what higher apprenticeships are open. The next slide, please, Jane. So this session, there's lots to talk about, and I'm sure you have lots of questions to ask. Of course, you can find out more about what studying at Nottingham College as a university level student is. You can ask us any specific questions about that. And I think most importantly, you can, through us, request that you contact or we make contact with a tutor or somebody who teaches on our HE courses to discuss the specific content or the careers that are open to you. One important facet too is the financial advice we're going to give you, and it might mean that you want to come back to us later on to talk about that, because that's always a priority from students with us. So we do have a HE prospectus, and we have lots of other resources we will make available to you. It's probably not easy to tour one of our campuses at the moment, but ordinarily and post-lockdown, we're able to arrange that. I'll just introduce you to the he.team nottinghamcollege.ac.uk email. That's our main contact link directly to the advisors we have in this event today and to our University Centre team, who can give you direct and specific advice on an individual basis. The next slide, please, Jane. And this is where I would like to introduce one of those people. Helen Lucas is our financial and welfare advisor, and I know she wants to spend some time talking about the financial implications of becoming a student and the things that can support you through study. I'll hand over to Helen, please.
Hello everybody, as Damien said, my name's Helen and I'm just going to take a few moments of your time to explain the financial side of taking on a higher education course. As you can see from the slide, there you can, once you've enrolled on the course, you can apply for an NUS totem card. This is more about saving money than spending it. It gets you discount in quite a lot of shops and services and restaurants around Nottingham, well, around everywhere. Many people say that you have to buy the card and you make your money back within the first couple of weeks, depending on where you shop. If you're moving to the city, there is masses of student accommodation available. We don't have halls of residence of our own, but we do have links with all the halls of residence around the town, and lots of private accommodation as well, if you prefer to do your own thing. If you take a place in a student hall of residence, you'll probably find you're sharing with students from Nottingham Trent University or even Nottingham University, which is ideal, really. Everybody's in studying at the same time, and you can join in some of the social activities at Nottingham Trent. So there are lots and lots of accommodation options for you, and we can help talk you through those when the time comes. Okay, next slide, please, Jane. The most important part of coming on a course at Nottingham College is getting your finance in place in good time for the start of the programme. If you are eligible, you would apply to Student Finance England, or if you're coming from outside England, then to your National Student Finance Service, so Scotland, Wales. There are two loans available. I won't go into great detail with this, but just to tell you, there are two loans available. There's a tuition fee loan, which is paid direct to the college on your behalf. So you simply get a letter to say that the loan has been paid, and you hand that in when you come to enrol on your course, and that's all you have to do. So you don't have to pay anything up front. You're not asked for any deposits or anything like that. Your loan is paid in stages during the financial year, and you don't have to think about it again. The maintenance loan, they call it the maintenance loan because it gives you money to maintain yourself. It's money that you can use for your rent, bus fares, books, course materials, food, anything that you want to spend your money on. The maintenance loan is paid to you in instalments, and it goes directly into your bank account. It's paid at the start of each term so that you know you've got that money to last throughout the term. There's extra support for you if you've got children, if you're a parent, if you are caring for somebody else, in other words, somebody else relies on you for day-to-day care. And there's also extra money for you in the form of the Disabled Students Allowance, the DSA, and that's payable if you've got an additional learning need or any kind of disability. The DSA, the Disabled Students Allowance, the money for parents, student parents, and the money for carers doesn't have to be paid back. So that's all extra for you. You apply for everything all at the same time on that website there. You can see the website in bold on the slide. It's a little bit too early this year to start applying for this year. You can apply from February onwards. People often ask about what happens when you come to pay the money back. The loans are added together because you need to apply for next year's loan as well in due course. So the loans are added together and you start making monthly repayments based on how much you're earning. There's a threshold. Once you're earning over that threshold, which is linked to inflation, once you're earning over that threshold, then you start making payments which are taken from your salary at source. So it's a bit like paying tax. It's not so you have to remember to make a payment every month. It's all done for you. Okay, next slide, please, Jane. This is the nice bit. This is where we're going to give money to you. And this is money for you to keep, doesn't have to be paid back, and you can spend it on absolutely anything. It's the Special Support Bursary. It's based on the amount of maintenance loan that you get from Student Finance England. When you're applying for your maintenance loan, you need to provide some information about how much money you've got coming into your house, into your household income. And depending on the amount you get there, we'll make a bursary payment to you. But the maximum amount you could get is £1,000 per year. And again, that is paid in 3 instalments, 1 per term. The first one comes in December, so I always say it's just handy for Christmas. But you actually can do anything with that money You can spend it on whatever you like. We don't mind what you spend it on. Additional bursaries are available if you are a care experienced student. That pays you £2,000 in every year of your course. And for students who are carers, there's extra money for that as well. You don't need to do anything about the bursary at this stage. Once you've accepted your course, a place on the course, we'll send you an application form automatically in the summer, and then you just fill it in and send it back by the deadline, which is usually halfway through the autumn. And then I'll confirm how much you're going to get. And then you can just sit back and wait for the money to arrive. Next slide, please, Jane. Okay, I think at that point I'm going to hand you back to Damien. If you've got any questions at all about finance, any aspect of finance, however small, it does seem a bit of a minefield when you first start it, but it's actually fairly straightforward, and I'm always happy to help. So just drop me an email on the he.team mailbox, and I'll be happy to give you some advice. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Always a really important aspect of understanding becoming a student with us is the dedicated financial support we can give to you, which is very, very important. And of course, Helen is here throughout this event to take specific questions. I guess to summarise, our promise to you is that we will give you direct contact and one-to-one time with your tutors. That's how we organise our HE learning, unlike universities. And that's why we have such high success rates, because your tutors will be on side with you to meet with you, even at these periods during lockdown, to give you one-to-one support to ensure you understand how you progress and how you achieve. We do have some very, very nice HE only study areas, such as the University Centre HE Study Lounge, which is brand new this year and has been upgraded, and some library facilities in the new Skills Hub, which we'll see a slide of in a moment. And we also value your opinion and your experiences to give us feedback about being a student. We have a strong student voice and representative scheme, which means you're able to feedback and get involved with managers and teachers and course leaders about your courses and how to improve them and how to shape what you're studying, and how you shape your experience is important to us. Our teaching teams, as we've mentioned, are lecturers with very impressive industry experience. They're trained teachers and they often have industry backgrounds. They're very highly skilled in understanding what jobs really mean and how you qualify for those jobs, as opposed to being academics at universities who don't necessarily have on-the-job training themselves. We do have a lot of links with employers still through our teaching teams, and we have work placement and work experience opportunities. And a lot of the learning that you will do with us, in fact, is linked to understanding what this means at a practical level on the job, as opposed to being perhaps theoretical and academic like you might find at universities. Next slide, please, Jane. So the next steps here, well, tonight's evening is to consider what you might be interested in. We've got some ideas that you put on your applications for this event to start with. And if you're still not sure, well, that's another reason you might want to speak to one of our dedicated HE team members tonight, or email us afterwards. And of course, we'd love you to make a choice that's right for you and complete an application, which can be done quite quickly. If anybody is interested for the February starts we still have, I would recommend that you do make a choice and complete not necessarily an application, but an inquiry with us after this event by the email address we looked at before, to ensure you can start on those programs. And I think in that instance, we'd call you straight back to advise you about which courses are suitable. So generally, if that's the case, but for you in September, once you have applied, we would contact you to tell you what you need to do next. And next slide, please, Jane. Just to let you know, we have invested dramatically sums in our recent skills hub in the city centre. You may have seen between the Lace Market tram stop and the Central train station tram stop. It was a £58 million development, and some of our provision for higher education and university level study is already there. So it complements what we already have in the city centre as a real noticeable and modern and dynamic provider of university level courses. The next slide, please, Jane. I think at this point, I'd like to hand over to and introduce you to Steve Marshall, who is our senior administrator, and will give you some indication of how you might apply for our courses. Steve, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. As the boss said, I'm Steve, and I'm one of the team who, amongst other things, looks after applications to our HE courses. And these might come to us through UCAS or directly to us. And essentially, there's no difference between the two. We look carefully at all of the information supplied, such as your previous educational achievements and relevant work or voluntary experience. Also your personal statement, basically why you want to do the course, and a reference if you have one. In terms of mathematics and English language, we normally expect applicants to have passed or to demonstrate their competency at GCSE grade C or above. That's grades 4 to 9 in the new money. This includes also includes functional skills or an equivalent, or we can make arrange for you to do a competency test if required. Having looked at the information, in many cases we can make an in principle decision straight away, either by email or over the phone. However, for some of our courses, especially our creative ones, we may ask to see some examples of your recent work, or maybe have an informal chat before making a decision. I hope that covers the main points of the application process. If there is anything else you'd like to know, do please pop a question down to us. If you prefer to do this outside the forum, do please get in touch. The email address is on the screen now. Thank you very much for your time, and back to you, Damien.
Thanks, Steve. Some really good advice there. We are here at hand, and there are seemingly some formal processes to apply, but sometimes we can help you apply in the most efficient way for you. Without using UCAS, if you want to apply directly to us, we can support you to do that. I'm really pleased to see several questions at the moment, and I think I'll start by answering the first one, which asks, what are the main advantages of doing an HE course at the college as opposed to going to uni? I think that's something we're always asked. If you said that to our students who are currently with us, they would say clearly the smaller group sizes, the direct contact with their teachers, and the one-to-one support is one of the reasons. There are many other reasons, of course, and it might be that we can say that our fees are lower, which they are, than universities, and that we have perhaps higher pass rates than universities, so you're almost guaranteed to achieve your level of study. The other advantages are that I think we are more able to support people from backgrounds who have family commitments, who have job commitments, if that's appropriate at the moment, unfortunately not for everyone, or those that want to change their careers. So I think that we offer a very different experience from the traditional 18 to 21 experience at universities, and that's what our students tell us, that they've made a positive choice to come to us because of those reasons, as opposed to going to even local universities within the city itself. Further to that, I think someone else who's also anonymous has asked about COVID affecting teaching. And it's clear that at the moment we've had to move through lockdown our teaching online. And you might say, well, that doesn't sound terribly different from universities. But until the lockdown a few weeks ago, we were still delivering face-to-face and in-person teaching for the majority of timetables for our HE students. But more importantly, even though we're online now, and we have had to do that because of the government's insistence to do that, it's clear that because we have those smaller groups, personal contact between teachers, and course leaders with students who are doing our university level courses has continued, because they can email, they can telephone, they can use online platforms to talk to you directly, as opposed to being in very, very large numbers at university. So COVID has affected teaching, and it's moved us slightly away from where we want to be, but we are still helping individuals and supporting individuals to succeed and understand how they achieve the best grades. There's a further question, which I think is one for Helen, and it asks, what are the criteria for applying for a bursary? Does everyone get one? I'm going to hand over to Helen again to answer that. Thanks, Helen.
I remembered to unmute myself, so that's good. The criteria for applying for a bursary. Okay, we ask you to be trying to work it out now. We ask you to produce your maintenance loan confirmation letter. So the letter that Student Finance England send to you, telling you how much maintenance loan you're going to get. We ask you to hand that in, a copy of that, or scan an email, a copy of that across with your bursary application form, so we can see exactly how much you're going to get, and then I can email you and tell you the amount that you're entitled to. Care leaver bursary and carer bursaries, we ask for a letter to confirm your circumstances, that's all. So care leaver, you provide a letter from your social worker or your leaving care support person to confirm your circumstances. Student carer bursary, usually a letter saying that you're getting carers allowance, that's usually sufficient. But yeah, this is the form that we will send you out automatically in the summer. You just fill that in and send that back. Hope that answers the question. Back to you, Damien.
Thanks, Helen. Yeah, it's quite important, I think, for everyone. And of course, we do our best to support all students to access the financial packages that are available, including our own, as Helen said, our own college bursary and our own access to learning fund. And we can target that support quite quickly when students find hardship is preventing them from studying. So sometimes at the end of a year, there's a bit of a flurry. People have to get through the final throes of their course, and they're working more independently, perhaps on final major projects or dissertations, and they need support to take time off work or financial support to help them through that. And we can target individuals. We do have many schemes that allow us to support you. So thanks, Helen, for reminding of us those. There is a further question that asks about, again, how we apply. And someone else who's anonymous says, will we need a personal statement to apply? I think ordinarily that's the way a lot of students would apply to university, but not necessarily for us, depending on your background and what you want to apply for. Let me hand over to Steve here, who can give us some tips on that process. Steve, please.
Okay, thanks, Damien. Yeah, the traditional UCAS application does require a personal statement, and it's quite a lengthy document. And I know from friends and family that have done this recently, that people spend an inordinate amount of time doing these, and a lot of heartache goes into it. So if you're replying directly to us, then you don't need a formal personal statement, although it is really, really useful if you can add some commentary on, to explain why it is that you want to do this particular course. So if you cover areas like, previous industrial experience or voluntary experience, things like that, skill sets that you've picked up at work or in voluntary work, relevant skill sets, things like that, things you've enjoyed doing, maybe things that you haven't enjoyed doing. It helps us to make a reasonable assessment of whether we think you will be suitable for the particular course, and and help us make an assessment that way. So the answer is no, but we would like you to tell us something. Hope that's okay.
Thanks, Steve. We don't have any more questions, but I do think there are some points we might talk about as a team. Something we were always asked is, you know, how does the course configure? Do I really need to stay for 3 years or 2 years? I think for us, we offer flexibility. So some of you may think of a degree as 3 years at university, but we have entry and positive exit points at levels 4, 5, particularly. So even if you do a year with us, you've got the 120 credits that is a level 4, 2 years the 240 credits, etc., which means you've got a very strong qualification, and you can probably move between courses if you really want to do that. We'd love you to stay for as long as possible, so we'd love every one of you to stay for 3 years with us. And that does happen for some of our students. They do a 2-year foundation degree and go on to a BA top-up. And I think that that's the optimum, but we are becoming more aware of people who want to study perhaps an HNC for 1 year only, and then consider their options depending on the job or the career they want. And we are offering pretty much all our courses, as I said before, on a part-time route, if that's most suitable to you. So there are no absolutes here, and we can really support you in finding the best way to ensure that you can commit to a higher education course and complete assignments amidst all the other challenges in your life, such as your family commitments, childcare responsibilities, and probably working alongside. And I think that's our real skill, particularly with mature students, because we are very, very in tune with the types of challenges you face, and we really open our participation up to our courses in that way. I'm not seeing any more specific questions from attendees. So I'm going to just hand over to Helen because I have a question for her. Helen, this is just to put you on the spot. You've talked and elaborated about the financial support. Is there any indication of what the financial support is in terms of maintenance loan and our bursaries for perhaps a typical student with children? I know that's a difficult one, but sometimes people want to understand, you know, what does this amount to, shall we speak? And I know everyone's different, but can you give us any further details?
I couldn't, Damien, to be honest, no, because it's based on a means test, a means assessment carried out by Student Finance England. I can say that anybody with a household income of less than £40,000 will get the full amount of the full £1,000 bursary from us, from our scheme. Oh, if I just pick some figures out of the air, I'm thinking of a typical student, perhaps with an income of below 25,000. They would get, sorry, if you've got a household income of below 25,000, you'd get the full £1,000 bursary. That's right. But you would get some bursary if your household income was up to 40,000. That's right. I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. For students who have children, they can still get things like council tax rebate. They get various childcare support benefits from the government. So nobody's ever going to be rich when they're a student, but they certainly will have enough. Well, I hope they'd have enough to manage reasonably well as a student. If students get into difficulty with their finances, we have a scheme called the Access to Learning Fund. We call it ALF for short. The Access to Learning Fund can help students out with non-repayable grants. So that's money for the students to keep and to spend on some expense perhaps that they hadn't expected, and that's tripped them up and caused them some stress. So we can easily send out application forms for that and support students with that money as well. That money doesn't have to be paid back. Thank you, Damien.
No, thank you, Helen. I did put you on the spot. I think it's worth reiterating that it is an individual assessment, but there are quite positive sums for those falling in the criteria that Helen's just described. And I know that we've gone over this, but we do find students with us probably worry more about their finances than even the academic level of their study. So that might be something we can finish on to remind you that we do take to heart the lifestyles that you lead, and we are very confident that we can support you in all ways, not just with the academic level and moving up to level 4 and university level study, which is new to some of you, and therefore progressing through the levels, but also with understanding the challenges you face, particularly at the moment. On that note, I would urge you to email he.team@nottinghamcollege.ac.uk with any further queries. We really look forward to your applications, and as Steve kindly said, you can apply directly to us if that's the best way to do that, so you don't necessarily have to navigate UCAS, which I know a lot of our younger students already in sixth forms, for example, and schools would do. And one final question, I think, is you know, how proud are we of our provision, and how proud are we of students like you who come to us? Well, if it weren't for lockdown and COVID, we have a grand and fantastic graduation ceremony every year where we celebrate all your successes. It's a wonderful day. Have a look on our website at our dedicated University Centre pages on the main Nottingham College website for some pictures and examples. And we really hope for those of you that are starting with us in September this year, by next year when you complete a level, if you are on a 1-year course, or the following year, if you do a 2-year course and graduate, you can attend that and you will see how wonderful it is as an achievement, even if you don't quite think it's possible at the moment to go on and study at university level. And that's exactly why we're here. For those of you that perhaps think, well, I know a bit about what university is for younger students at big universities, but how would this work for me? With that and no further questions, I'd like to thank you all personally for attending, and I do want to thank my colleagues too, who've answered some questions that you've put forward to us. So please get in touch, and I really and dearly look forward to hearing from you and seeing you study with us very shortly or into the autumn term. Thanks again, everyone.